Rolito Mahagway. Magandang buhay po at mainit na pagsalubong sa inyong lahat. Ngayong sabi nga kanina po ay Linggo ng Wika. At kahit nga po holiday, talagang hindi mapagilan ang ating patuloy na mag-isip at continuous quality improvement. Kaya andito po tayong lahat ngayon para bigyang buhay itong ating webinar. Gusto ko pong i-welcome kayong lahat dito sa institutionalized and intellectual exchange of our ideas sa pamamagitan po ng ating Professorial Chairholder Lecture Series 2022. Taos-puso po kami nagpapasalamat at nagagalak sa aming mga special guests or our Professorial Chairholder Lecturers from University of the Philippines. Ano nga ba, sir? Universidad ng Pilipinas na magbabahagi po ng kanilang expertise, katalinuhan at kakayahan sa mga bagay na tungkol sa sustainable development and solid waste management sa ating bansang Pilipinas. Isa rin pong mainit na pagsalubong sa lahat ng mga participants na nandito sa ating online platform, mga kasama natin sa room at mga nakikinig po sa iba't ibang social media. Isa pong pag-congratulate o taos-pusong ano ba yan? Ano yung congratulate, sir? Sa chairman ng lecture series na ABP SAS, Florinda Oquindo, at sa mga organizers at mga team na talaga namang buong sigasig at siglang isinakatuparan po itong ating webinar. Yan. Tuwang-tuwa po kami at nandito tayo ulit sa panibagong yugto ng ating lecture series. So isa pong mapagpalang araw at masayang buhay sa inyong lahat. Salamat po.
Okay, maraming salamat po Dr. Ado sa mainit na paunang salita. Napakahirap pong maggumamit ng sariling wika natin sa ganitong mga palatuntunan. Thank you, ma'am. So, moving on po, to make this session a valuable one, may I remind everyone of the following virtual conference etiquette. Number one, please mute your audio by clicking the button found at the bottom of the screen. Second, for the duration of each session, participants are encouraged to turn on their video and ask questions. Use the chat box to address your question or concern. That's for number 3. Number 4, please use raised hand feature to raise question and or clarification during the open forum. And number 5, during the program, please use the speaker view and keep your video on. Number 6, in the case you get disconnected, simply click the provided webinar link again. Questions and clarification will be entertained after the presentation. You may use the chat box for the facilitators to note them. State your name and institution and ask questions concisely. Comments that will benefit others are most welcome. Provide feedback. Help us improve our online events to better understand your needs and preferences. For our registered participants who are on Facebook, make sure that you have answered the survey feedback to ensure that you will receive an e-certificate. Whenever disconnected in the Zoom meeting, please log in again using the link, or you may join us at this link. Thank you. For our first speaker, he is a professor of School of Urban and Regional Planning Fellow, National Center for Transportation Studies, University of the Philippines, Diliman, Quezon City. He has a master and doctoral degrees in urban and regional planning from the University of Tsukuba, Japan, and a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the University of the Philippines. His academic and professional interests and advocacies are in land use and transport interaction, environmentally sustainable transport, sustainable public transport, infrastructure planning, non-motorized transport, transit-oriented development, land value capture, stakeholder engagement, among others. He has been involved in the conduct of local road transit rationalization studies in Metro Manila. He was also part of bus rapid transit studies in Metro Manila, Cebu, Davao City, and other transport studies in the Philippines and overseas. He has also been involved in the planning of new public transport system for new emerging cities in Sultanate of Oman and in capacity development of bus rapid transit proponents in Vietnam. Again, he is a professor at the UP School of Urban and Regional Planning and is also a faculty fellow at the University of the Philippines National Center for Transportation Studies. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming our resource speaker for this morning, Dr. Cresencio M. Montalbo Jr., PhD. Let's give Sir a virtual applause. Sir?
Hello.
Good morning, sir.
Magandang umaga, magandang gabi. Naririnig niyo ba ako ng malinaw?
Loud and clear, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much for inviting me as a professorial chairholder and lecturer in this, what I understand to be a series of lectures. Sinabi kong magandang gabi kasi I am broadcasting from Los Angeles, California. Alas 7, it's 7:12 in the evening here of Thursday. But with this amazing technology that we have, we can do things from wherever we are and we can meet wherever we are. And although there's nothing like face-to-face meetings and being able to hold our friends' hands. Again, thank you very much for the organizers of this lecture series. I would like to thank the PUP President Bong Muhi. I'd like to thank Dean Remedios Ado of the College of Engineering. Thank you for organizing this. Thank you for Professor Joseph Bianes, who has been constantly in touch with me in the preparation for this lecture. And I'm very happy to see many familiar names and faces in the audience. Thank you very much for participating in this lecture. And I'm looking forward to a very good interaction at the end of the lecture. Sinabi kanina na ngayon ay umpisa ng Linggo ng Wika. Maligayang bati sa ating pagdiriwang ng Linggo ng Wika. Pero kinabahan ako. Kasi ang paghahanda ko ay sa wikang Ingles at ang aking presentation. My presentation is all in English. And so when I realized that it's the start of the National Language Week, I got scared. But anyway, Professor Rolito Mahaguay assured me and the speakers today that we can use whatever appropriate language is for the lectures. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of my fellow lecturer today, my dear friend, Dr. Tonette Tanchuling, who I understand will be giving the lecture, the presentation this afternoon. Hello, Tonette. And my other friends in the audience. There's Wesley, there's Bibo, there's Shibata-san, and the urban planning team. Welcome to this first lecture today. And at this point, please allow me to share my screen. There. Here. Okay. Let me just sort this out. There. And let me Play. Okay, there. There. Can you see my screen clearly? I'm on the first slide. This is a presentation of about 45 slides. We were advised that we have about an hour, more or less, for the presentation and about half an hour for question and answer. The topic that has been assigned to me is something that's close to my heart. It is called TOD, or Transit-Oriented Development, as a means to sustainable development. Okay, I'm from the University of the Philippines, School of Urban and Regional Planning. Tagalog po ako, taga Batangas ako, kaya hindi napakadali, napakaalawan na magtagalog ako, kaya nga lamang ang presentation ko ay nasa English ngayon. And as I've said, it's my pleasure to be sharing with you what I know, what I do, what I have studied, what I have professionally prepared to do as my contribution to the community and to nation building, and that is my specialization on transit-oriented development, or TOD. My presentation this morning consists of 7 sections. This is a very simple story of things relating to TOD. I'll be talking about the main context of TOD, which is sustainable development. It is a kind of development that we all are chasing. And then I'll be defining what TOD is. I'll be explaining some basic or fundamental principles of TOD. And then the more interesting part is I'll be sharing some international and local examples of TOD and what current initiatives there are on transit-oriented development. Towards the end of the presentation, I will discuss some lessons that we can take from international experience and a discussion of opportunities and challenges that we are facing when it comes to TOD. First, let me talk about sustainable development. We know the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, that we are trying to achieve by 2040. And there are 17 of them. And the goal that is most relevant to TOD is Sustainable Development Goal number 11. And that is achieving sustainable cities and communities through transit-oriented development, or through the use of high-quality mass transit and transit-oriented development. We can improve our chances of attaining sustainable cities and communities. But I looked at the other SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals, and I realized that there are many other SDGs that are relevant to transit-oriented development. And these are these SDGs, as you can see on your screen. No poverty, because a good public transport system and a good transit-oriented development can help people beat or overcome poverty. It can make people healthier. So there's the SDG, or Sustainable Development Goal, of good health and well-being. There's gender equality if we plan and design our transport systems with gender equality in mind. There's decent work and economic growth that can be achieved through sustainable transport, among others. There's industry, innovation, and infrastructure. There's reduced inequalities. If there's a good public transport system serving our communities, then people can have better access to economic opportunities. And a good public transport system is an equalizer. It is an economic equalizer, because that gives people equal access to opportunities, including economic opportunities. And then there's climate action, sustainable transport, and therefore TOD is also consistent with climate change adaptation. One of the bigger contributors to greenhouse gas emission is the use of fossil fuel. And if we rely on high quality mass transit or public transport, and if we have good transit-oriented developments, then we can perhaps reduce our contribution to greenhouse gases. Also, there's the SDG number 17, which is partnerships for the goals. Transit-oriented development promotes the partnership and the collaboration of different stakeholders. And so TOD is also consistent with partnerships. Now, urbanization is a trend that we are all certainly headed for. Urbanization is a good thing. It helps people achieve, or it helps communities achieve their economic goals. But it is important that in achieving our urbanization, we are also able to accomplish the triple bottom line of any city, and that is social, economic, and environmental goals. It is estimated that by 2050, so how far away is that? So it's 28 years. By 2050, 2/3 of the world's population will be in urban areas. Even now, the Philippines has a little over 50% of population in urban areas, and in about 30 years' time, 2/3 of the world's people will be living in urban areas. So you can just imagine the congestion. You can imagine the jostling or competition for space in our crowded cities. You can just imagine the demand for travel that people will have in our cities. It is therefore important that we have high quality, we have sustainable, we have reliable public transport systems, or transport systems, specifically public transport systems, or what we call mass transit, serving our travel needs. And to support mass transit is what we call TOD, or transit-oriented development, which I'll be defining in a short while. Because of this expected trend in the world's population to become urbanized in about 30 years' time, with 2/3 being in cities, there is a need to optimize development, or make the most, or make the best development. And without management and control, social costs of population growth and concentration in cities will be tremendous. And whatever benefits that will be achieved can be outweighed or overwhelmed by the social costs of populations competing for space in cities. It is important that there be a balanced approach to development. That is why we should always aim for the triple bottom line of cities, which consists of social, economic, and environmental goals. And as you shall see in a short while, transit-oriented development is consistent with this triple bottom line of cities, or a balanced approach in growth. Now let us try to understand what transit-oriented development is. TOD is defined as urban development that maximizes the amount of residential, business, and leisure space within walking distance of a public transport or transit station. Public transport is also defined as transit. So when we say transit, it is public transport, and TOD is the kind of land or property development that combines different land uses, and the activities are within walking distance from a transit or a public transport station. That is the official definition of TOD based on the Transit-Oriented Development Organization. TOD also means the creation of compact, walkable, pedestrian-oriented, mixed-use communities centered around high-quality transit or public transport systems. TOD is consistent with regional planning, city revitalization, urban renewal, suburban renewal, and walkable neighborhoods combined. What you see here is a schematic diagram of what TOD is. That blue dot there is a transit or a public transport station or hub. And then radiating from that transit hub is different kinds of development, varying in type of development and varying in density of development. So in a TOD area, there's diversity in activities, there is density of activities, there's also quality of development within walking distance from a public transport or a transit station. Hence the phrase transit-oriented development. TOD is characterized by compact development, as I've said earlier, meaning the diverse activities or land uses are within a small area, usually or ideally walkable to and from the transit station. TOD is also characterized by mixed-use development, meaning that in a TOD area, you can find most of the things that you need. You can find a diversity of activities. TOD is also characterized to be pedestrian friendly. It is walkable. The area is walkable, and getting to your destination to and from the transit station can be done on foot. We have to remember that walking is a transport mode. In fact, it is probably the most important transport mode. It is a transport mode that everybody does. But in order to make the walking experience pleasant and encouraging, especially for us Filipinos who do not want to walk under the sun, we have to make the walking experience pleasurable. It can be done through weather protection. It can be done through secure, high quality pedestrian facilities, well lit at night. It can be done through having public art or a good urban design so people can enjoy the walking experience. In fact, in a few slides from now, I'll be talking about a local example that is that of a high quality pedestrian facility. TOD is also characterized to be centered around high quality public transport systems. For example, there's rail-based systems. We are on the verge of developing. The country is on the verge of developing several mass transit systems. I'll be talking about that in a short while. And so that creates opportunities for TOD. There's also opportunities for bus rapid transit or BRT. There's passenger terminals, such as bus terminals, bus interchanges, and other transport infrastructure. TOD is centered around these high quality transit systems. So before TOD can happen, there has to be transit. Otherwise, there's no T in TOD. TOD is really a combination of high quality public transport system and the land development around the stations of this transit system. Without transit, there's no TOD. Without quality, compact, walkable land development around transit stations, there's no TOD either. TOD is composed of a high quality transit system and the compact, mixed use, pedestrian friendly, and high quality land development around transit stations. Without one, there will be no TOD. Without transit, without land development, there is no TOD. We need those two components to have a TOD. Now, what is the value proposition or the justification for TOD, or what are the benefits of TOD? Here on this slide, we see the triple bottom line of cities, which consists of social, economic, and environmental goals of any city. Okay. Now with TOD, which means with high quality transit, there will be sustainable access to jobs and services. Let us remember that public transport systems are not just infrastructure, facilities, or services. They are really, they represent access to socioeconomic opportunities. So with TOD, meaning also with good quality transit system, there can be access to jobs and services. There can be affordable housing. This is something that especially important for Philippine cities, that socialized or affordable housing be given high quality access. It is not right to relocate people, for example, or to locate low cost or socialized housing in far-flung areas with no visible access to economic opportunities. High quality mass transit should provide access to affordable housing so that the lives of people in this low cost or socialized housing can be improved through good access to socioeconomic opportunities. With quality or reliable and efficient public transport, people can enjoy more time to spend for the more important uses or activities, like having more time with family, being able to spend more time with family, being able to do more at the workplace, being more productive, instead of spending so much time commuting to our workplaces. By the time we get to our offices or to our schools, we are already dead tired, and that can reduce our productivity as a student or as an employee. And also spending too much time on the road because of unreliable and inefficient transport systems will lessen or reduce the time that we can otherwise spend for our loved ones. Also, a good quality transport system can improve people's health. One of the sources of stress for people is the need to commute. And if that commute experience is stressful, is inefficient, is a waste of time, then that can have a bearing, or it can take its toll on our health. So those are the social benefits, the social justifications for a good quality transport system and TOD. There are also economic benefits. Time saving is probably among the most important economic benefits of a good quality public transport system. Efficient public transport system can help us become more productive and enable us to spend time more on work or more on our studies, instead of just being stuck in traffic congestion or stuck in a public transport vehicle that does not move. Energy savings, because public transport is more fuel or energy efficient compared to the inefficient private car. Space efficiency, because of the densification of developments in TOD, and also the reduced space and fuel consumption per passenger that is required to move a passenger from one point to another through public transport, then we achieve those efficiencies. There's infrastructure savings. Instead of building more and more roads, we can move people at a lower cost per capita if we have a good quality public transport system. And then there's agglomeration economy, which allows us to achieve economies of scale and which allows us to achieve economic efficiencies. So there's economic goals and there's also environmental goals. With a high quality public transport system and complemented by TOD, there can be a reduction in local pollution, which is namely air pollution due to reduced emission. And also there's carbon dioxide reduction or GHG emission reduction. The biggest contributor to greenhouse gases is burning fossil fuel, and transport is a major burner of fossil fuel, especially private cars. So if we have good quality transit and we have TOD, then there will be a reduced reliance on private cars, which is the inefficient mode, and greater use of the more efficient mode, which is public transport. And there's land and green preservation and biodiversity. Also, the other economic benefits of a good public transport system coupled with TOD. So sustainable transport system and TOD are consistent with a balanced approach to growth. TOD also increases land values. How is that happen? How does that happen? TOD means high quality development centered around high quality transit stations. And with TOD, there is a strong possibility that land values will increase. When there's a mass transit station in an area, the area becomes accessible. It becomes more accessible. And when an area becomes accessible, it becomes an attractive location for activities. Remember that when an area becomes attractive, it becomes highly coveted, it becomes highly desired. And with that increase in desire for an area or desire for anything, the value increases. Earlier today, I was at the Getty Center in Santa Monica, and I saw $40 million, $44 million paintings. And so my friend and I asked each other, what makes these paintings so expensive? I mean, the prices are unthinkable. They're grossly, almost sinfully high. But the reason why these prices are very high is that there's so much desire for them. They are very attractive to have. And it's the same thing with land or locations. If an area becomes attractive because it is more accessible, it becomes more valuable. So that's one value that is created by TOD. We call that the transit value. It is additional value or new value that is created by making the place accessible. TOD is also consistent with quality development. Well-planned developments, facilities and services that give the user or the client or the guest a pleasurable experience. And also there's a diversity in activities that can be found in TOD. And densification is also part of TOD. Now, the bottom line is the TOD area becomes attractive. And that way, the area becomes more valuable because it is more attractive. And TOD, therefore, creates additional value for land. In fact, there are mechanisms that not only create additional value, but also capture this newly created value of land and use this additional value in financing TOD or financing transit. We call that LVC or land value capture, but that is not really the focus of this presentation. The objective of this presentation, if I have not said it yet, is really introduction or basic knowledge about TOD. Now let me go to some fundamental TOD principles. TOD is anchored on the basic principle of land use and transport interaction. This is my favorite, an all-time favorite image of mine that represents the interactive relationship between land use development and transport development. I liken this interactive relationship to a chicken and egg analogy. Halimbang nauna, which came first? Is it the chicken or the egg? That's a dilemma that's very hard to resolve. The important thing is one follows the other, or one precedes the other, or one affects the other, or a change in one causes a change in the other. And that is the same thing with land use development and transport development. One causes a change in the other. Now, to further explain the principle of land use and transport interaction, let us say that we have some activities. By land use, we mean the different activities that we perform or we can find in an area or in a certain location. It can be employment, land use. It can be school, land use. It can be leisure, land use. It can be an institutional land use. It can be just an open space or green space or parks. So land uses represent activities that can be undertaken in different locations in our city or outside the city, for example. Now, land use activities create trips or create travel, or land use activities generate trips. Now, these trips will have to be served by some transport facility or transport service. And so we have to provide this transport facilities or services. If it's by private cars, then we have all the problems that we experience now. If it's with good quality public transport, then as I have explained earlier, things can be more efficient. Regardless of the mode or combination of modes that we put up to serve the travel needs of people, then we are able to improve the accessibility of destinations. I explained in a previous slide that having a mass transit station in an area improves the accessibility of an area. What is accessibility, by the way? Accessibility is it's very difficult to define something that we use almost every day. But accessibility is the get to it ability of a place. It is the ease of reaching a certain place. That is accessibility. So transport facilities and services will dictate the accessibility of a place. If it's all private cars, then it's very difficult to access because of traffic congestion and because private cars are inefficient by nature. If it's a good quality public transport system, meaning efficient, reliable, then the place is more accessible. And with an accessible place, as I have explained earlier, the value of the land goes up because it becomes more accessible. It becomes a more attractive location for activities. It becomes more valuable. And because of the attractive location, it can be a magnet for additional land uses. And so this cycle may be repeated. This cycle just demonstrates how transport or how accessibility can make a place accessible, reachable, and in effect, how it becomes a more attractive location for activities. Now, TOD makes that possible. With the presence of a mass transit station in an area, that makes that area accessible, and it therefore can become an attractive location for various activities. Now, the agglomeration, the concentration of these activities, diverse, quality, dense activities, can be what we call TOD, within walking distance from a mass transit station. Okay. I insert this slide here, which is an official definition of transport planning. Some people think that transport planning is really all just about transport. No, transport planning is about transport and trips or trip making that is the result of land use activities. So transport planning is a study of the relationship of land use to travel patterns and travel demand. Transport planning is not just about transport. Transport planning is also about land use and how land use creates trip making, how different activities create trip making. I probably have bored you so much so far, so I would like to walk you through hopefully some interesting examples of transit-oriented development, both international and local examples. First of all, let me just briefly explain the various motivations for TOD in different parts of the world. In the US, in many American cities, the traditional and the most popular travel mode is the private car. Now, we know there's a global understanding that the private car is inefficient, is not the best transport mode there is, and public transport beats the private car hands down in terms of sustainability, in terms of efficiency. So in many American cities, there was a need to promote public transport use. And one way to promote public transport use is to make the areas around public transit stations interesting in the form of TOD. So TOD in many American cities is meant to promote transit or public transport use as an alternative to the private car by having quality and diverse destinations which are accessible by mass transit. That is the motivation in many American cities. In Japan, the motivation for many Japanese cities is slightly different. Transit is already the most popular mode of travel, or public transport is the most popular mode of travel in many Japanese cities. I lived in Japan, in the city of Tsukuba, for 7 years, where I did my master's and PhD. And well, Tsukuba is probably not a good example, but in the nearby capital city of Tokyo and in many Japanese cities, the main mode of travel, especially for the trips that people take daily, meaning work trips, is public transport. It is not private cars. It's inconvenient. It is expensive. It is impractical to drive your car to your workplace in big Japanese cities because, number one, parking is not available, or if it is available, it's very expensive. So people would rather and voluntarily use public transport in going to their workplaces. So trains are very popular in Japan. And the motivation for TOD in Japan, in many Japanese cities, is to help finance public transport investments through the mechanism called land value capture, which I have explained earlier. Before TOD was so widely undertaken in Japanese cities, and when Japanese train systems were publicly owned, the income of train companies, which at that time were public companies, their income was mostly derived from fare box revenues or ticket sales, train ticket sales. And only about 5% of the total train revenues can be traced to non-passenger sources. Now, with privatization of these train companies, beginning in the mid to the late 90s, the share of non-passenger revenues of these train companies rose to almost 50%, even greater than 50%. And the remaining share of revenue is from the traditional passenger revenue sources. Now, the source of the non-passenger revenue is actually TOD, or transit-oriented development, not or complementing the revenues collected from passengers. Now in China, the motivation for TOD is more or less a combination of the two, the motivations for American and Japanese cities. In China, quality mass transit is developed to provide people with the needed quality and sustainable mobility. And TOD is a way to cross-subsidize transit investments, because transit investments, especially rail-based transit systems, are very expensive. And so there will have to be creative ways to finance these expensive mass transit systems. And one effective way is TOD, specifically land value capture. Now, the common factor in TODs worldwide is that there is a quality mass transit system and quality and diverse land development at areas that are within walking distance from a transit station. So TOD, as I've said, is really a marriage. TOD is a marriage between mass transit, quality mass transit system, and diverse, quality, walkable land development around mass transit stations. So TOD and mass transit should have a symbiotic or mutually beneficial relationship. Mass transit can bring people to TOD areas. TOD areas can become the magnet for people who will be riding mass transit to get to those TOD areas. So they are inseparable. And as I've said, without transit, there's no TOD. Without land development, there's no TOD. They have to come together. These are some examples, international examples of TOD. On the upper left, we have the Jurong East MRT station in Singapore. You have the MRT line there, the Jurong East line, and there's a station there. And that is, the station is accessible to the immediate destinations within walking distance from that station through high quality pedestrian facilities. There's the transit-oriented development in Curitiba, Brazil. The mass transit system there is a BRT, or bus rapid transit. And in the vicinity of BRT stations, they allow diverse and dense development, and such developments, especially dense developments, are not allowed elsewhere, because if an area is not served by a mass transit station, then the fallback of people will be to use their private cars. And when everybody drives their private car, then we have chaos, as we have in Metro Manila and many Philippine cities. The figure on the upper right is what is called the housing and rail integration in Japan. It is a TOD, which combines high quality rail system development, and within the vicinity of a train station, you have mixed uses, which include residential development. So people on their daily trips, especially to their workplaces, will just take the train instead of their private cars. Of course, there is still use for private cars. Many Japanese have private cars, but they do not use their cars every day, maybe on weekends or maybe for special trips, leisure trips, for example, they use their private cars. But on a daily basis, when they go to their workplaces, they do not use their cars. They use or they ride public transport, specifically trains, or combinations of bus and train, or bicycle and train, or walking and train. On the lower left, you can see a very familiar image, which is the Tokyo Station area. And the Tokyo Station area is a very intense, I'd say it's a very well-planned area. You have the, I don't know if you can see it clearly, but this is the colonial style Tokyo Eki, or Tokyo train station. What you see on the surface is this chateau or palace-like building, but Tokyo Station is actually much more than that. You have levels and levels of subterranean spaces below that colonial-looking building, which these different levels actually interconnect the different rail lines, subways, and at-grade train systems, because Tokyo Station is a major transfer point. And within walking distance from the train station are various types of destinations. You have offices, you have employment areas, you have tourist areas. The Imperial Palace is not far away. You have shopping areas, you have leisure areas. You even in the underground spaces of Tokyo Station, you can find interesting bars and I think some karaokes and some taverns, or some what we call izakayas, or pubs in those areas. So you have this mixture, you have this diversity of activities that you can find within walking distance from the train station. That is TOD. And then you have the Namba Park in Osaka, Japan. You hardly see the train station there, much less the trains. And the place is made accessible by a high quality train system there. And then a stone's throw away from the train station are diverse activities or destinations. And then on the lower right image, you have a familiar site in Hong Kong, and that is the Kowloon Station. That tall building there on the lower right image is the Ritz-Carlton. It's what, 5-6-star hotel. And then in that complex also are apartment buildings or condominiums, as well as employment areas and leisure areas. Now, don't let looks deceive you. There are layers and layers underneath that provide interconnectivity among train lines, and also access for people to get to either the hotel or the shopping area in that complex, or their residential apartment within the same complex. Okay, this is the Tokyo Station area here. This is what I showed earlier. This is the housing and rail integration in Japan. You have that train line. This is the Tsukuba Express. This is the new train line connecting my hometown, or I consider my hometown, which is Tsukuba City, and Akihabara Station in downtown Tokyo, 44 minutes away. It's not 43 minutes, it's not 45 minutes, it's 44 minutes. Japanese trains are very precise. And then you have several stations along the line, and around stations, you have these mixed-use developments called transit-oriented development. And the profits or the earnings from TOD, especially the newly created land values were captured and channeled or used to subsidize the investments in the expensive train systems. Okay, this is the Kowloon Station that I was explaining earlier. That tall building there is the Ritz-Carlton. And you have many other buildings in the complex. And the complex, or underneath the complex, is a train line and several lines that are interconnected. And you have several levels of passenger concourses and shopping areas. And so you see a direct interaction, a direct relationship between property development and transport development through TOD. Now, there's some local example of TOD. They may not call it formally a TOD, but it is. It has the elements of transit-oriented development. And in particular, I'm talking about the Ayala MRT station and the pedestrian network that is connected to the Ayala MRT station. Okay, you see the map here. This is the Ayala MRT station, if you can see my cursor. And then going, well, northwest, actually, or going west, you have a network of pedestrians. You have a network of pedestrian facilities that can bring the Ayala MRT station passengers to their destinations in the inner portions of the Makati Central Business District. So this pedestrian network emanates from the Ayala station of MRT3 into the Makati Central Business District. It consists of 6 kilometers of pedestrian walkway network composed of elevated walkways or footbridges, covered walks, pedestrian underpasses, and pedestrian overpasses, and executed in a quality way, meaning aesthetically designed and implemented. And the walkways pass through air-conditioned spaces, namely the malls in Ayala. And this pedestrian facilities also pass through some nice parks with beautiful public art. So the walking experience becomes a pleasurable experience. And in a while, I'll be explaining to you the benefit of making walking experience pleasurable. What is called Skywalk is a project of Ayala Land in collaboration with the Makati Commercial Establishments Association. And it extends, or it runs between the MRT station in Ayala and Rufino Street, which means that you can walk 15 minutes going west uninterrupted by cars. So you can walk continuously and you will not be disturbed by cars because of the grade separation or the priority that is given to pedestrians instead of given to cars. This is about a 15-minute walk over a 1.1 kilometer distance at a speed of 1.2 meters per second. And this quality pedestrian facilities have actually lengthened the tolerable and actual average walking distances of people. Before the high quality pedestrian facilities were put up, the average walking distance of users of the Ayala station going to the Makati Central Business District was 400 meters, but this was lengthened to an average of 700 meters with the quality pedestrian facilities. This just goes to show that if you make the walking experience pleasurable, enjoyable, people can actually and will be willing to walk longer. The daily usage of the Skywalk before the pandemic was 250,000. So that's 250,000 users per day. Okay, there are also prospects for TOD for the North-South commuter rail. You know that many Philippine cities are on the verge of developing high-quality mass transit systems, and TOD is now being made part of the plans of the development of this mass transit systems. There's the NSCR, or the North-South commuter rail. I take this information from the early study of the NSCR, and at that time, the TOD concept plans were prepared for 10 stations of the NSCR. Now, many of these plans are being refined as part of the NSCR extension segment. There are also plans to identify other potential locations of TOD, and the need for access improvements and traffic management is also being undertaken, because TOD can have a larger, or a mass transit station can have a larger influence area if you can somehow expand the reach that people can have, and that can be done through a combination of walking and other public transport services, or maybe non-motorized or active transport modes such as the use of bicycle. These are prospects for emerging transit systems. You probably have heard of the Metro Manila Subway Project, or the MMSP. And I did some work for the DSUD in this past year. And part of the work is undertaking accessibility analysis of some existing or some emerging mass transit stations. And we picked one of the stations of the Metro Manila Subway, which is the BGC station, specifically the Market station. So many of you probably know that. And from the Market, we estimated, or we identified the areas that are within 3-minute walking distance. You see that on the upper left, within 6-minute walking distance. You see that on the upper middle, and then 9-minute walking distance. From the Market station, you see that on the upper right, and so on and so forth, up to 15-minute walking distance from the Market station, which you can see in green. So you can just imagine the areas that can become accessible on foot, given the walking time. Of course, we are assuming here that these are the pedestrian facilities that will be made available when the station opens. We use the existing map of BGC, and we treated the sidewalks, which are high quality, by the way, in BGC, as the means to access destinations on foot. And so we can identify the areas that are X minutes walking distance from a transit station. I also did some accessibility analysis for the emerging Cebu bus rapid transit. And we chose working with the Cebu local government, since the BRT is not really a project of the city government, but it's a project of a national government agency, specifically the DOTR. We helped the Cebu city government identify the prospects and opportunities for them, since the BRT will be put up in their midst. And so the city government wanted to leverage the presence of a BRT station, or BRT stations, within their boundary. And so they wanted to be ready and maximize or leverage the opportunities created by a mass transit station. And so we did this accessibility analysis, represented by this multi-color chart, each color representing number of minutes walking distance from a BRT station. So there are local TODs in the making for the North-South Commuter Rail, for the Metro Manila Subway Project, for the Cebu Bus Rapid Transit Project, and also for the other emerging mass transit system projects in the country. These are exciting times. Okay, this slide shows the available TOD standards and criteria, which can help our planners and decision makers in the planning and implementation of TOD. There's the TOD standard of the ITDP, the Institute of Transport Development and Policy. There are many works of academics on TOD criteria and measurable indicators. And also there's the World Bank's TOD implementation resources and tools, which presents like a toolkit or a guidebook for planning and implementation of TOD. Now these are different, but reference materials that have a lot of commonality when it comes to TOD planning guidelines and criteria. But they are one in saying that TOD is best done if we consider, or if we are mindful of the local context of the area. Because what works well in an area, in Japan, for example, or in a specific city, may not necessarily work in another city if we just copy the model hook, line, and sinker. We will have to customize, we will have to localize the TOD for our specific culture, our specific climate, our specific issues. Now, there are lessons from international experience. There is a need to localize TOD, as I said. What works well in an area may not necessarily work in another area if copied 100%. We'll have to customize TOD to suit our local needs and local opportunities and constraints. There's a need for common understanding among stakeholders. TOD involves many stakeholders. It is not just the transit agency or the transport department that is involved in TOD. There's also the land use department. So in our case, there's a DOTR, the Department of Transportation. There's also the DSHUD, the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development. There's also the local government units who hold the authority within local areas. There's the private sector, there's the businessman, there's the academe, there's public transport operators, existing public transport operators, etc. So there is a need for common understanding of TOD among the diverse and numerous stakeholders involved. Because there are many stakeholders, there is a need for coordination, for collaboration among the stakeholders. There's a need for regulation. We must have clear guidelines and standards, our own standards for TOD. There are many efforts now, there are several efforts now to develop local TOD guidelines. And of course, the important issue of financing the transit system, financing the TOD. So the best paradigm, the best financing model should be identified that can deliver the high quality transport system as well as the mixed use, diverse, high quality development around mass transit stations. Now let me talk about TOD opportunities and challenges. The opportunities for TOD that I see are, number one, the country's mass transit development program. As I've said, we are on the verge of seeing several mass transit systems in our midst like we've never seen before. And so this creates great opportunities for TOD. Also, TOD is really land development around transit stations. So with these mass transit development, we have opportunities for developing land around transit stations, or in other words, creating TOD. Another opportunity we have is vibrant population that we have. Our population is basically young. And with a young population, we have a great future. That indicates the volume of consumers that we have. So that is an opportunity. And then there are existing and emerging policies that are conducive or enabling for TOD. And there are available mechanisms to finance infrastructure, also to finance TOD, and opportunities to improve access for all, regardless of socioeconomic status. Okay, this image just shows the aggressive, ambitious infrastructure program of the government, started not just in the previous administration, but in earlier administrations past. And this just goes to show that the Philippines, being a developing country or almost a newly industrialized country, is embarking on a massive infrastructure program. And this creates opportunities for TOD. Also, as I've said, the young population of the Philippines creates opportunities for TOD, because TOD happens because there are users, because there are people, and we don't have a shortage of that in the Philippines. Having a young population may either be good or bad, because population is really social capital. So it's really up to us to harness or to make use of this prospect, this opportunity, this resource called human resources. A young population can also be a burden, but we should turn it into an opportunity. Now, having a vibrant and young population is an opportunity for TOD. The mass transit system development that we are experiencing and we are seeing now creates massive opportunities for TOD. There are 6 mass transit lines in Metro Manila, existing or emerging. There's also the MRT7 system, which will go direct to my suburban home in Fairview. And so this mass transit system will create opportunities for TOD. And combining all these 6 mass transit lines, we have a total of 113 stations. So we have 113 locations where we can pursue TOD to various levels. And of course, there's the North-South commuter rail. So there are transit systems, not just in Metro Manila, being planned and being implemented, but also in other parts of the country. For example, Cebu, in terms of the bus rapid transit system. There are existing policies that can serve as entry points for TOD. As you can see here, there's a national transport policy which advocates sustainable transport and which gives importance to public transport. There's the DSHUD policies that espouse land use and transport interaction. And there are the transit projects that I have discussed earlier, which creates opportunities for TOD and the opportunity for collaboration between transport agencies, local government units, and the private sector. Now, if there are opportunities, there are also challenges. There's a need for having a clear land use and transport master plan that will have the commitment of people, of policymakers, of stakeholders, and be supported by the different stakeholders. There's a need for a clearly and strongly integrated land use and transport plan, anchored on sustainability, driven by a clear vision. The plan must be owned by the different stakeholders. There must be a sense of ownership and a sense of accountability to the plans. And there must be a commitment to the plan, even beyond political terms. So even if we change our political leaders, there must be continuity and sustainability of the plans. It is a disaster when we have a new master plan each time we have a new set of officials. So there must be continuity in our master plans. Another challenge is the need for horizontal and vertical linkages among local government units who are adjacent to each other, and among local government units and national government agencies. It's important to have proactive LGUs, purposeful and enabling national government agencies working with LGUs. And there must be a good partnership, strong partnership with the private sector. Having a strong private sector is good, but it can also create challenges. It is important to tap the private sector because they have the money, they have the expertise, but there's a need to regulate and guide the private sector because public mandate is to look after public welfare. And there can be a very strong motivation for the private sector, which is to earn profit. Now, private profit cannot overwhelm public welfare. There's a need for institutional strengthening. There's a need to capacitate transport and land use agencies. And it's important to develop transit agencies with a strong entrepreneurial sense, meaning our transit agencies should also be able to detect opportunities for land development. And also we need to have champions that will support sustainable transport and transit-oriented development plans. We need people who will support and champion and advocate TOD. They can be from the government, they can be from the private sector, they can be from the academe, they can be from the youth. I emphasize S in champions. So it's not a single person, it is a group of champions. Now, where do we go from here? Quo vadis. This list just is a summary of the opportunities and challenges that we face in TOD. The need for a land use and transport master plan, the need for linkages, both vertical and horizontal, the need for a transit agency or a transport agency with a strong entrepreneurial sense, the need to achieve a win-win arrangement among the different stakeholders, and the need for a high-quality transit system complementing high-quality development around its stations, the need to localize TOD to be customized to the local needs and local opportunities and constraints, and very good urban design to complement TOD. That completes my presentation. I say again, the TOD is a way for sustainable development. Thank you very much for listening. I hope that somehow I have created and added value to this audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing your expertise and very insightful and deep understanding about trans-oriented development as a means for sustainable development. So I think your topic, sir, this morning is a very interesting one because we received lots of questions and lots of questions from our participants. So the first question, sir, how does engineering and technology contribute to the sustainable development? That's the first question, Bob.
How does engineering technology contribute to development? Technology is an important part of development, specifically sustainable technology. To achieve sustainable communities and cities, we need to resort or to rely on sustainable technology, which means we have to develop them or we have to use them. Technology can be used in different aspects of life, in transport, in power generation, in water supply and treatment, in communications. Now, technology must be environment friendly. Technology must, to the extent possible, not be reliant on a fossil fuel, which is, as I've said, a major contributor to greenhouse gas emission. So technology plays a very important role in achieving sustainable development by resorting to the environment-friendly technology options.
Yes, sir. Very well said. Technology is really related. Yes, sir.
I would like to add something though. Because we are, or in due time, we will become technology experts and engineers specializing in our field. There is a danger there that when we become specialists, we lose track of the bigger overarching goals that we chase. It is possible that we see the trees, but we miss the forest. It is possible that we are very focused on a specific technology, for example, on the work we are doing, that we miss the goals that we are after. The SDGs are a very good basis for these goals. Because we become too specialized in technology, we forget that what we want is a transport system that is that provides gender equality, for example. We get so mesmerized by a specific technology that we forget that our objective really is to come up with a transport system that will be responsive to special needs of people. So it's important that while it is good to focus and be very skilled in our field of specialization, we should not lose track of the bigger overarching goals that we are trying to contribute to.
Thank you, sir, for that for the answer for the first question. So before we continue po, let's acknowledge po the presence of our President, Dr. Manuel Buhi. He is with us this morning. Sir, short
Good morning.
message po. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. First of all, thank you so much. And that you
Medyo mahina po yata ang internet ni sir sa area niya.
I think we have a technology issue right there. Hi, Bong.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir. We can hear you now.
Hello. You do hear me? Okay.
Yes, sir.
So thank you so much, Doc Dayo. Thank you for your time and thank you for sharing your expertise to the PUP community. And I know that aside from the PUP community, there are so many participants also coming from the industry and other HEIs or the higher education institutions. Maraming salamat po, sir, for your time.
Thank you, President,
Bong.
for your
Hello.
message. So, moving on po. The second question, sir. What foundations need to be met first to enable sustainable transport in the Philippines local setting like cities or provinces?
Can you repeat the question, please?
What foundations need to be met first to enable sustainable transport in the Philippines local settings like cities and provinces or provinces?
Well, sustainable transport advocacy is not just the role of a specific sector. As I've said, it involves several stakeholders, various stakeholders. We have the local government, we have the private sector, we have the academe, we have the civil society, and maybe other stakeholders. And so it is important that they understand, that they know, that they get sustainable transport principles. I mean, for one to be able to advocate effectively anything, they must understand it and they must believe in it so they can do it with conviction. So the challenge there is to build the capacity, to build the knowledge base among these different stakeholders. PUP, the University of the Philippines, the academic institutions have that mandate and have that role in creating capacity building and imparting knowledge, even developing new knowledge that can be used to advocate sustainable transport and TOD, transit-oriented development.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we have participants who are students of Master of Science in Construction Management. They will ask you a question. What would be the best thesis for students in MS Construction Management for free, Masara, for free?
The best thesis topic for
Thesis, MS Construction Management.
construction management. Well, construction management can be in any field. It can be construction of any structure. Now, I think TOD topics, constructing mixed use, dense or developments of various densities in proximity to a transit station would be an interesting topic for construction management. How to ensure that the construction will not, or how to make sure that we can manage the economic costs of construction. We know that during construction, congestion will inevitably be created, and that leads to economic costs. And maybe an interesting topic would be to develop or to look at construction methods that will minimize the economic costs of congestion created by construction. That's just one topic. There are many others, I'm sure. And my last two slides, by the way, show my email address. So feel free to consult with me by email. From tomorrow, I will change my email address.
Thank you, sir. Another question po. Ayan, for free muna ngayon. But I don't know the next setup, sir. Next question po. I am an audit engineer in a real estate developer in Cavite. I am having a hard time trying to figure out my thesis. Another consultation, sir. What would be the best in terms of construction management and real estate development? Thanks, Paul.
Oh, you mentioned real estate development. That is an important component of TOD. So if you can dovetail, if you can link your topic, especially real estate development, with TOD, meaning integrating it with transport, that'll be a very interesting, a very powerful topic for a thesis.
Yes, sir. So I think this is a very interesting question. How can we translate the OD in layman's term? This is for common tao translation. We engineers, we can relate on how, but we can relate on that, but how about our lawmakers or policymakers? Anybody can answer it.
Okay. I think we can do that by just referring to the basic definition of TOD. TOD is mixed use, high quality development of various densities within walking distance from a mass transit or public transport station. So there's emphasis on the compactness of development, emphasis on the quality of the development, emphasis on walking as the access mode to and from the transit station. So I think that is intuitive, that is easy to understand. And we may have to tell our lawmakers, though, to take public transport, so they will understand more clearly the issues that regular public transport users face on a daily basis. But the concept of TOD is really just that. It is mixed use, quality, dense, or diverse land development around a transit station.
Thank you, sir. Another question po, to ensure implementation of the current TOD master plan, this is coming from Engineer Bungulto. Do you think there is a need to legislate its implementation so that even with a change of even with a change in administration, there will be continuity?
Do you think legislation will do the trick? We have many laws, but do they get implemented? Well, it will help improve the chances of implementation through various administrations if it is legislated. But even if it is legislated, but without the support of the stakeholders, it's just a nicely written law. It will be nothing but a nicely written law. There will have to be that support, that ownership, that sense of ownership, that sense of accountability to the plan or to the master plan.
Yes, sir. Another, I think, may mga questions na pare-parehas na. This one po. What government agency can be our champion for the TOD to be effectively implemented in the Philippines? Thank you.
As I said, TOD is the fruit or the result of not just one intervention, but several interventions. TOD is really the marriage between a high quality public transport system and quality development around the public transport station. So what agencies are relevant, therefore, then usually we'll have the Department of Transportation being the proponent of our mass transit projects. And there's the DSHU, the Department of Human Settlements and Urban Development, which support local government units in the crafting of their comprehensive land use plans and zoning ordinances. Zoning ordinances are very important because remember that TOD is put up in a local area. It is an area within the political jurisdiction of a local government unit. In other words, TOD must be consistent with the prevailing zoning ordinance of that local area. So you have the participation there of the LGU. Inevitably, we need the cooperation of property owners, of landowners, for example, so that they will allow their areas to become or to host the TOD, either in partnership with the government or maybe by selling the land to the government. There are various modalities of implementing TOD. Maybe it can be a lease, a long-term lease. There are many choices in the menu.
Yes, sir. Marami pang mga tanong. Piliin po natin. It's already 11:29. How can we accurately do financial and economic evaluation? I think this is evaluation. Evaluation of TOD impacts and benefits.
Well, we will evaluate TOD in the context of a mass transit system. As I've said, without the mass transit station, there's no TOD. So we evaluate its benefits and costs in the context also of the mass transit system. Any feasibility evaluation or viability evaluation will look at costs and benefits, or benefits and costs for that matter. So what benefits will there be with TOD? There can be economic benefits, there can be financial benefits. The financial benefits are more easily imaginable because we can think of financial benefits in terms of sales or revenue of the mixed-use development that will be generated. Economic benefits can be in the form of, well, greater usage of the mass transit because it is motivated by the high quality destinations around transit stations. With increasing usage in mass transit, there will be economic benefits there relative to the use of private cars. Economic benefits can also be in the form of travel time savings as a result of mass transit use. And so these benefits will now have to be assessed with respect to the costs involved. And there are also economic costs. There are also financial costs. There will also benefits that TOD can create, and that is the land value capture. It can be it's a financial benefit of the new additional land value that is created by the TOD, by the transit-oriented development. It can be monetized, which means it can be calculated, and that is a direct benefit of TOD. Where to use it? You can use it for to channel back to the transit investment, or it can be used to further create or improve further the quality of the TOD area. It really depends on the proponents involved and on the vision, on the master plan for that particular TOD, which forms part of a bigger master plan, which is that of the corridor or the mass transit system in total.
Okay, sir. We will entertain two last questions. Stakeholders are variables in TOD, and they are diverse in terms of each and every interest. Aside from proper project management of TOD, any thoughts on how to deal with those diverse interests?
What are the important components of having good collaboration and good cooperation among the different stakeholders? One important ingredient is trust. The different stakeholders must trust each other. There is no room for even perception of corruption for TOD. It is a relationship that should be based on trust. And without it, it's very difficult to achieve good collaboration among the different stakeholders. There must be a very clear master plan so that the stakeholders will be assured that what is being pursued, meaning that master plan, is really representative of the different interests of the stakeholder and not just the interest of a single individual or a single entity that may benefit from TOD. So it's important that there be that element of trust so that the different stakeholders can work together. I probably speak in big words, and this can be generalizations, but these are very important considerations. Without trust, then the stakeholders will not work well with each other.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Is there any need to enact a new law to enable entrance and fast-track local government TOD planning and implementation? Why not and why yes?
The answer is yes. In my recent work for the DSUD, I strongly recommended that the DSUD will capacitate LGUs in the preparation of TOD plans in collaboration with the transit agency. And so for those of you who are familiar with the DSUD planning guidelines in the preparation of the comprehensive land use plans and zoning ordinances, there are two special guidelines that are being used in addition to the main guideline on CLUP zoning ordinance. This existing guidelines are supplemental guidelines on climate change adaptation and sustainable or supplemental guideline on sustainable land management. Now, I strongly recommend that there be a new guideline, a new supplemental guideline, and that is a supplemental guideline on TOD with the purpose of capacitating LGUs in harnessing and optimizing TOD opportunities within their area. So the answer to the question is yes, there must be a new instrument to put LGUs in a better position to leverage TOD in their area. A transit station, let us remember, will always be located in a local area. Now, the host government must be ready to take advantage of it. And so there must be that capacity development for that.
Thank you, sir. One last question, sir. What is your opinion on the accessibility of the current MRT-7 project and its contribution to sustainable development? Also, do you think it can successfully promote interconnectivity once finished?
Well, I'm really hoping that they will finish MRT-7 soon. My home in Fairview is a 5-minute walk to the nearest MRT-7 station at Winston. I think they will call it the Winston station. And MRT-7 is envisaged to connect Quezon City with Bulacan. Actually, it's not only Quezon City that will be connected. Since MRT-7 will also be interfacing with LRT-1 and MRT-3 and the coming Metro Manila subway, MRT-7 will actually improve the accessibility, in effect, of the entire Metro Manila, because you can easily transfer to the other mass transit lines. You have heard of what is called the Common Station, which they are constructing now at the junction of EDSA, North Avenue, West Avenue. And this Common Station, it's a huge mass transit station, will interconnect these 4 mass transit lines, in effect making Metro Manila accessible using mass transit.
So maraming salamat, maraming salamat, sir, for this very insightful talk about TOD. Marami po namin tutunan ngayong araw na to, even the Masters of Science in Construction Management student. To award, so let's proceed with the awarding of certificate. To award the certificate of recognition to our resource speaker, let's call on Engineer Florinda H. Oquinto, Assistant to the Vice President for Student Affairs and Services and the Chairman of the Professorial Chairholder Lecture Series 2022. Ma'am Oquinto? Ma'am Oquinto, can you hear us? Okay. Tech team, please post the e-certificate, the certificate. Okay, so let me read the citation. Polytechnic University of the Philippines Certificate of Recognition is awarded to Dr. Cresencio M. Montalbo Jr. in grateful acknowledgement of his distinguished and invaluable service rendered as guest of honor and speaker in the Engineering, Science, and Technology Professorial Chairholder Lecture Series 2022, TOD as means of sustainable development. Given this 19th day of August 2022, signed by our President, Dr. Manuel M. Muki.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Sana hindi po kayo magsawang mag-share ng expertise po sa amin dito sa PU.
May isa pa raw parating later in the year.
Yes, sir.
Take care, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. Keep safe po.
Thank you.
Okay, tech team.
Thank you, Sir Dayo. Salamat po.
Thank you rin sa pag-invite. Mag-ingat tayong lahat.
Thank you, Sir Alet. Thank you, Sir Bong. Tech team, mamaya tayo start ng ating Ma'am Golpeo ng second talk. So we will resume po at I think 1 p.m. 1 p.m. po for the second talk na ibibigay sa atin ng ating speaker from UP again. So let's have a break po. Lunch break po tayo. Nasunod natin ang oras. Napakagaling ng tech team. See you po at 1 p.m.
Thank you. Congrats sa inyo. Maraming salamat.
Excuse me, sir. Picture po muna.
Sige pa.
Open cam po. Sino na mag...
Good morning.
So, ito po, baka nasa ito o mo sa mga.
Gab, please take pictures.
Pa-open na lang po camera.
Pa-open na lang po ng mga cameras.
Mukhang magkakasama kayo dyan, nag-e-echo
First slide po. Next slide po. Next slide po. Next slide po.
Yeah, 10 slides.
Okay na, Sir RJ?
Okay na po.
Okay, maraming salamat po. Magkita-kita po muli tayo mamayang alauna. Mahalin ang wikang pambansa. Thank you po.
Evaluation link po is posted na po. Don't forget to accomplish lang po. Thank you.
Welcome to the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, the country's first Polytechnic U. PUP is a state-run university governed by the Republic Act 8292, known as the Higher Education Modernization Act of 1997, and its implementing rules and regulations contained in the Commission on Higher Education Memorandum Circular No. 4, Series of 1997. It is home to more than 70,000 students, making it the largest state university in the Philippines in terms of student population. It is the university's commitment to give qualified and talented students access to quality and responsive education to aid them in the achievement of their dreams and the improvement of their lives. True to its commitment of making education accessible to all, the university has strategically established campuses and branches all over Luzon. PUP boasts of its roster of 1,483 full-time and part-time faculty members and 707 administrative employees. The faculty members and employees perform the collective goal of training, servicing, and supporting the university's stakeholders. From its humble beginnings in 1904, PUP was originally established as the Manila Business School primarily for the training of personnel for government service and skills suited for private employment. 4 years later, the Manila Business School was renamed Philippine School of Commerce or PSC and merged with the Philippine Normal School from 1933 to 1946. Through the virtue of Republic Act 778, PSC was renamed to Philippine College of Commerce or PCC in 1952. In April 1, 1978, PCC was converted into a chartered state university now known as the Polytechnic University of the Philippines by virtue of Presidential Decree Number 1341. PUP truly has come a long way from a business school to a premier polytechnic university, the very first in the country. Every year, around 50,000 graduating high school students, mostly from economically
Mahagway. Hello.
take the Polytechnic University of the Philippines College Entrance Test or PUPSET.
Hello,
And
Mahagway.
hope to become
Hello.
one of the 10,000 who will be given a chance to be new PUPians.
Hello.
At present, the university offers more than 80 programs in the graduate and undergraduate levels with its
Lumabas po ata, ma'am.
intention of making the colleges vertically articulated. Graduate School, College of Accountancy and Finance, College of Arts and Letters,
Alam na naman ni Sir Lincoln eh. Nakausap ko na si Sir Lincoln.
Architecture and Fine Arts, College of Business Administration, College of Communication, College of Computer and Information Sciences, College of Education, College of Engineering, College of Law, College of Political Science and Public Administration, College of Social Sciences and Development, College of Science, College of Tourism, Hospitality and Transportation Management, College of Human Kinetics, Institute of Technology. PUP further strengthens its open university system through expanded tertiary education equivalency and accreditation program and the non-traditional system program. It caters to borderless educational system that aims to reach many learners as possible. For more than a century of existence, countless outstanding achievements have raised PUP to the level of a national comprehensive university. With a vision to transform the university into an epistemic community, PUP subscribes to the idea that a university should have an extensive research and extension development culture. Each year, PUP surpasses national passing rate in licensure examinations and ranks among the top in different academic disciplines. PUP has also institutionalized academic exchange and international cooperation with various countries all over the world through its Office of International Affairs. Today, PUP is relishing its successes and its students are enjoying unprecedented academic opportunities. An enhanced campus environment, upgraded colleges, state-of-the-art technology, and nationally and internationally recognized programs. It has gone far from what it was more than a century ago. This is mainly due to the support given by the government, the PUP community, and its benefactors. With the combined efforts, PUP will continue to be a partner in nation building and in poverty alleviation for the marginalized sector of the society, with quality, responsive, and relevant education as a tool. PUP, the country's first Polytechnic U.
Each of us must find our groove. It's so long overdue. So for tonight, we pray for what we know can be, and every day we hope for what we still can see. It's up to us to be the change, and even though we all can still do more, there's so much to be thankful for. Even with our differences, there is a place where we're all connected. Each of us can find each other's light. So for tonight, we pray for what we know can be, and on this day we hope for what we still can see. It's up to us to be the change, and even though this world needs so much more, there's so much to be thankful. There's so much to be thankful
Welcome to the Polytechnic University of the Philippines, the country's first Polytechnic U. PUP is a state-run university governed by the Republic Act 8292, known as the Higher Education Modernization Act of 1997, and its implementing rules and regulations contained in the Commission on Higher Education Memorandum Circular No. 4, Series of 1997. It is home to more than 70,000 students, making it the largest state university in the Philippines in terms of student population. It is the university's commitment to give qualified and talented students access to quality and responsive education to aid them in the achievement of their dreams and the improvement of their lives. True to its commitment of making education accessible to all, the university has strategically established campuses and branches all over Luzon. PUP boasts of its roster of 1,483 full-time and part-time faculty members and 707 administrative employees. The faculty members and employees perform the collective goal of training, servicing, and supporting the university's stakeholders. From its humble beginnings in 1904, PUP was originally established as the Manila Business School primarily for the training of personnel for government service and to provide skills needed for private employment. 4 years later, the Manila Business School was renamed Philippine School of Commerce or PSC and merged with the Philippine Normal School from 1933 to 1946. Through the virtue of Republic Act 778, PSC was renamed to Philippine College of Commerce or PCC in 1952. In April 1, 1978, PCC was converted into a chartered state university now known as the Polytechnic University of the Philippines by virtue of Presidential Decree No. 1341. PUP truly has come a long way from a business school to a premier polytechnic university, the very first in the country. Every year, around 50,000 graduating high school students, mostly from economically challenged families, take the Polytechnic University of the Philippines College Entrance Test or PUPSET and hope to become one of the 10,000 who will be given a chance to be new PUPians. At present, the university offers more than 80 programs in the graduate and undergraduate levels with its strategic direction of making the colleges vertically articulated. Graduate school